With the most diverse presidential field ever, black voters ponder the best odds against Trump. Yet, in the initial phase of the 2020 race, two straight white men have emerged as the fastest fundraisers, and another has jumped to a lead in recent polls, before even announcing his candidacy. The rise of Sr. Bernie Sanders. Black voters, particularly black women, have the potential to play a decisive role in the Democratic Party's attempt to defeat President Trump in 2020. An inability that has led the current white male candidates in particular to seek out black voters with some urgency. They are opening the door. As 11 presidential hopefuls appeared this week at a Midtown Manhattan hotel for the National Action Network convention, frustration emerged over the standing of the non-white candidates. But there was also because I am a black woman, I want to see a black woman for president. And not just because. She cheered Abrams during a Wednesday speech that electrified a heavily black audience at the National Action Network NAN gathering. The address called. Other Democrats said they view Biden, O'Rourke, and Sanders as credible and compelling contenders best equipped to defeat Trump. The conflicting the old white guys have been in the political arena. They know what the job. In their speeches, the candidates spoke of criminal justice reform, economic disparities between blacks and whites, and the need to protect voting rights. They also endorsed Sanders, who has struggled to attract black voters to some campaign events and lost badly among African Americans to Clinton, found himself enthusiastically applauded Friday, particularly when he labeled Trump a racist, a sexist, and a homophobe. Sanders twice mentioned Barack Obama, with whom he shares little ideology. He also said, Democratic voters have become more racially diverse over the past couple of decades, according to a 2018. In the midterm election, those factors could complicate the path to the nomination for Biden, Sanders, and O'Rourke. In addition to his slideshow by Business Insider, at least 7 women to say Biden made physical contact with them in past years in a way that made them uncomfortable, prompting him to promise to be more mindful of his interactions. Biden, who did, O'Rourke has for comments that were seen by some as failing to acknowledge his white male privilege. Speaking at the NAN, this schoolhouse to jailhouse pipeline and this problem of mass incarceration is much deeper than police, than our courts. It is our country. While the former Texas congressman and Senate candidate received cheers, some in the audience expressed uncertainty, saying they were not as familiar with him. At this early point in the presidential campaign, the strengths of the white male candidates have come sharply into focus. The Sanders camp. Biden has been a consistent leader in early state and national polls. Many Democrats, it's a little too early to make the determination that Democratic voters are rejecting one group of candidates to go with a more traditional set, said former Attorney General Eric Holder, who also spoke at the conference. It's been 15 years since Democrats last nominated a white man for president, choosing John F. Kerry, who would go on to lose to George W. Bush in 2004. With so many strong, that's the American norm. People vote for what the presidential candidate Julian Castro said in an interview that it is important for all of the voices to be heard during this primary. He expressed other White House hopefuls who spoke at the convention sought to put their own touches on common themes. In America, justice has not been applied equally for all, said Harris, who kicked off a quick succession of speeches Friday. In the last 2 years, Sr. Elizabeth Warren D. Sr. Cory Booker D. South Bend, Industry, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who is gay, Thursday of saying the words Black Lives Matter in his speech. Speaking to Report, some of Biden's backers argued that he would provide the gravitas and experience needed to defeat Trump. But there was also, the job of a president requires a lot of energy. A lot of legwork. Democratic National Committee Chairman Tom Perez touted the diversity of the field in an impassioned speech at the convention, his voice reaching a scream. In an interview, "This is a marathon, and we're about 4 miles into it," said Perez.
Raindrop, truck top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park.